Hi everyone, welcome to my reception show. My name is Fariba, and today's the day. Today is the day that we all were, leading up to, which is the Last of Us season finale, the season 1 finale. And I mean, what an incredible journey it has been. These last 9 weeks has been pretty remarkable, watching something as cinematic as The Last of Us, seeing this journey that we've been, viewing through the eyes of Joel and Ellie, and seeing how much the relationship grew throughout each episode, and diving deep into their backstories and understanding their perspective and what this world is. I've never seen something as incredible as the story that we saw here. And having seen this series in the last few weeks, I understand why a lot of the gamers who've either played the games or watched the gameplay have basically loved this series, have basically phrased the whole, video games for it. This is a show that's really done such a great job of being faithful to its original source, and doing so where even if they have to make creative differences on a TV platform, they do it so in a way that it works for a TV platform. And I mean, again, just everything that I have been seeing so far with this series, whether it be the cast, the writing, the showmanship, the direction. I have not ever witnessed a show that has been such remarkably huge and cinematic as the way I've seen with The Last of Us. And I mean, I can't wait to see how how season 1 ends the story. We've seen so much that's happened with Joel and Ellie and the people around them, and how this outbreak has affected the world, and how it made it just become this dystopian world that we now see in the show. And I mean, again, I can't wait to see how they end it off. So yeah, without further ado, let's watch The Last of Us season 1 finale. So we actually get a final prologue then, huh? Oh, this is Ellie's mom. Okay, and I believe this is the original voice actor for Ellie too, Ashley Johnson. Wow. Oh, water broke. Oh, yeah, okay. So that was her mom's side. Oh, wow. Oh no. Aww.
Yeah, you tell her. You fucking tell Millie. You're so tough.
She is tough.
It's okay.
So there's Marlene. Okay, that's probably how Marlene knows about Ellie then, huh? Was Ellie's mom a firefly?
I want to bring her up and make sure that she's safe.
I can't do that.
And I want you to give her this. No. And then you kill me.
Wow, I didn't know they knew each other for that long. Wow.
Please. 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 No.
That is awful.
Marlene!
She didn't want to turn. That is so sad.
There you go. Take this.
Oh. Wow, that reminded me of how they did with Game of Thrones with the Jon Snow reveal. That transition reminded me of that.
Cool.
Oh, look at Joel. He's
Have you
just
ever
so
played
easy
this?
with Ellie. Oh my
Boggle?
god.
It's a word game. If you want to beat me in something, it would be this.
Oh, Ellie's so
all right.
broken. Oh man, I love how Joel is really trying to raise her spirits right now. And she's still kind of traumatized from the last episode, so.
He had a guitar in that RV.
Mhm.
It's all smashed up, but got me thinking, maybe I should find one. I haven't played in forever. In fact, I was thinking maybe I could teach you. I bet you'd be great at it.
Oh.
You want to learn how to play guitar? Ellie?
He's finally let his guard
Oh
down.
yeah.
But Ellie, oh.
Then cut through that building to get around that stuff, find a skyscraper, go up and look around.
Wow.
Actually, this time I was thinking we'd blast our way through that rubble. I found some dynamite in that RV back there.
Really?
No, so we're going to cut through that building, find a skyscraper, go up and look around. I had you going, didn't I?
Oh, Joel is really trying to open up to her right now. Like a good father.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's definitely
Fine.
not okay.
Just you kind of seem extra quiet today. So.
Whoa.
Damn it,
Oh my gosh.
You stay
What was that? Dude, isn't he like still injured? Is that a giraffe? Oh my god, that's a giraffe. I didn't think they would exist.
I'm scared.
Oh,
Cute. Oh, get Joel like a proud papa. Such a cute little giraffe. Look at Joel smiling. Oh my god.
Oh, where's she going? Come on, come on, come on, come on.
You can see that Ellie's looking happier now, and Joel is happy, and some people are happy. The optimism. There's a whole colony of giraffes?
maybe there's nothing bad out there, but so far there's always been something bad out there.
He has
We're
a
still
point.
here though.
No.
Can't be for nothing.
Oh, she does raise a point. Because for one
I know
thing,
you mean
Sam-
well. I know you want to protect me. You have. And when we're done, we'll go wherever you want. Colonies, sheep ranch, the moon. I'll follow you anywhere you go.
Oh.
But there's no halfway with this. We finish what we started.
Mm-hmm.
No. Second day.
Well, I gotta hand it to the army people. They were way better at stitching you up than I was.
It was me. I was the guy who shot and missed. There's no story. Sarah died. And I couldn't see the point anymore. Simple as that.
Oh, he tried to kill
And I
himself.
wasn't scared either. I was ready. What can you do?
So time heals all wounds, I guess.
Pretty nice quote.
It wasn't time that did it. You know what I'm in the mood for?
What?
Shitty puns.
Oh. What did the green grape say to the purple grape? Breathe, you idiot.
Those are 3 out of 10.
7.
I'll give it a 5.
What is
5
that?
out of 10.
What? Have they reached the hospital? It's the fireflies.
Welcome to the Fireflies. See, we got hit pretty hard.
Oh, it's Marlene.
Patrol didn't know who you were. You are the one person I never wanted to be in debt to. But I owe you. We all owe
Or
you.
Just take me to her.
I can't. She's being prepped for surgery.
Surgery.
What surgery? No, you take me to her. You take me to her right now! Oh!
Oh.
So I do understand. I'm the only one who understands.
Yo, that's effed up.
I'm sorry.
That's
I have
super
no
effed
other
up.
choice.
The fuck are you doing? Keep walking. I said, keep walking.
Where is she? Fuck you. I don't have time for this.
Uh-oh. Save your daughter. Go save your daughter. Oh, wow. He's like literally going at them one by one, easily, single-handedly. Oh my god. Oof. Wow. He's taking them all out so easily. Wow. That's what you know. That's when you know you're dealing with a daddy.
How did you get in here?
I said, unhook her.
I won't let you take her.
Unhook her.
Oh shit.
Move!
Oh my god.
It's kind of having. It's like going back to like the first episode, how he was carrying Sarah. Now it's like he's carrying Ellie. It's Marlene.
Can't keep her safe forever. Or you. So what would she decide? Because I think she'd want to do what's right.
Shit, she has a point.
You know it.
And he knows it too. That
It's not too late.
hurts.
Even now.
Decided not to do it, huh?
What?
Turns out there's a whole lot more like you. People that are immune. Dozens of them.
Oh, he's lying.
The doctor couldn't make any of it work. They've actually
No.
they stopped looking for a cure.
Why would you do that, Joel?
What are my clues?
Raiders attacked the hospital. I barely got you out of there. We'll find you some new ones on the way.
Oh my god, he is lying, and that is not cool.
Are people
Oh.
hurt?
I think she knows.
Yes.
It's more than okay.
I'm taking it home. You just come after her.
Oh, Joel, what have you done?
I used to hike like this all the time. Wouldn't say it was a favorite thing. She wasn't a fan of the mosquitoes and such. But she was a big climber. Or a scamper.
Oh man, you can tell
She would've liked
something's
you.
off with Ellie.
Not to
She's
say
probably not
the
happy
two
with
of you
what
are the
Joel
same.
did.
Killer smile. Again, not saying that you don't. But you know
Yeah,
why
he's
I
trying
think she'd
not to
like you?
offend her.
Why?
Because you're funny. I think you would have made her laugh. And maybe that's not what you
Swear to
want.
me. Swear to me that everything you said about the fireflies is true.
Oh, that is not a swear.
I
Oh,
swear.
Okay.
okay. Interesting. Just ends like that. Was the Last of Us season 1 finale, and I think overall it's a really solid finale. Although I won't say it's my favorite episode. Like, I think one of the things I will say though is having seen this whole series and how much Joel and Ellie's relationship had evolved, I think that has been basically the soul of this whole show, right? I think that really has been quite a wonderful story to watch, and seeing how much Joel and Ellie change throughout each episode, whether it's because of the people that they meet, it's because of the dynamic between the two of them. And I think that as we got into each episode, we started to witness how they started to get close to one another, especially in Joel's case, because we all know how he started off the series being very reticent, being restrained. He didn't even want to be, associated with Ellie. He didn't want to do anything. He didn't want anything to do with Ellie, right? He wanted to get rid of her as soon as possible, and it just took a while for that to really happen. And then, of course, by the time we get to the finale, things really change. We see how much he has grown, how much he has changed since that first episode. Seeing the performance through Pedro Pascal, giving this emotionality of who Joel is, and just showing off like, well, this is why he's feeling this way because of the events from 20 years ago. How, he tried not to deal with, trying not to relive a similar moment of that, in this part of the apocalypse. And yet, this is what happens. He does get close to Ellie. He starts to finally let his guard down. Becomes this really protective father that, the more you watch it, the more you're just like giddy, just like, oh my God, like this is how much Joel has changed. And you're just always rooting for him. And I know that this one is very controversial because of what he ends up doing. Because, by the end of the day, he does kind of do something really selfish for himself. And in a way that it feels like he got a bit desperate, like he didn't want to lose someone that is basically the equivalent to him, that is Sarah. And I understand sort of that mindset. And then it's like, well, what does Ellie feel about this? Because now it's also her decision, what she wanted to do, what she would have preferred to do. And I know that because of the events from last episode, she's definitely in a mindset where she just really wants this whole situation to be just done with. And not just that, but with everything that's happened, with all the tragedies that happened since the first episode, she would want to, make it seem as if her journey was worth something, right? Or and meant something by the end of it. And I think that just because of what Joel does by the end of the season, it definitely kind of gives a really sour taste to, Ellie, knowing that this is what happened. I think I have a sense that she might think that, Joel is lying, that she probably sensed that, because of everything that's happened, Joel must have done something really terrible that, you can really sense this really awkwardness between her and Joel, by the time we get to kind of the final moments of the finale, it's like, okay, this is going to be definitely a big thing going into season 2. Like, okay, there's definitely going to be this really tense relationship between Ellie and Joel. Like, I'm really getting that sense of it. And so that's definitely going to be a big thing going into season 2. Like, how is that dynamic going to, you know, change? What is going to be the consequences? I think that what Joel does end up doing is going to be very consequential. So there's going to be a lot of things to kind of look forward to seeing in season 2. Sort of this dynamic that now is going to kind of take a hit because of what Joel did in this episode. And I mean overall, like, I mean, in the episode itself, I mean, let's just say again, like, the performances are great. I mean, I think as of this point, we can say that both Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal are going to be Emmy nominees. I think their performances have been so, you know, powerful, have been very effective. They have been very emotional. You can see just how things have changed for both characters, especially with the people that they meet across in each episode. And whether it be, you know, I mean, for the most part, it's been very tragic, although they've had some good moments, like in Jackson, Wyoming. And I think that I mean, just to see how much those two characters have changed and yet still being themselves, I think I think what Pedro and Bella has put into those characters has been just incredible. I have never seen the performance like that in a long time. And I think that had it not been for the performances, we would not have something as quality TV as Last of Us. And again, like, I think that once again, they nailed the performance in this episode, especially Pedro Pascal. I think that this is one we really see a very protective father like never before. I think this is where I think Pedro really kind of once again enhances his performance. Just even in those moments where he is literally massacring all of the fireflies, like, you can sense the desperation. You can sense how he does not want to lose Ellie. You can sense the selfishness, but also like this understanding, like, this is why he's feeling this way. Like he's very vulnerable and he does not want to relive what happened 20 years ago. And you can get that sense from Pedro Pascal's performance as Joel. And I think that was definitely a very, very crucial scene to watch. Just again, seeing unfolding everything that, you know, that becomes a really big turning point for everything that's going to happen moving forward. And not just that, but again, just seeing Ellie, just kind of this really bummed out Ellie who is still traumatized from the episode, who really just wants this all to end, right? Like, she's at a point where she's kind of at the end of things, and just, you know, it's really interesting because now she's kind of in the position that Joel is in. Like, now she's just like in this world where she's kind of forced to grow up. And, you know, and it's like she's trying to take into things, but it's like now she's kind of really at her low point, and it's like you understand where she's feeling at this point in time. And again, a lot of the controversial decisions that happened this episode regarding Joel's decisions to, you know, not to take Ellie away from the Fireflies, not, you know, allow them to, you know, get the cure out of her, and all that sort of stuff, right? And I think that overall, like, I think that's a very, you know, interesting way that they conclude this season. And I think it makes far more sense, because if you want to continue off with, you know, Joel and Ellie's story, then this is probably the way to go. Like, having something as controversial where Joel decides to just undo everything that they had done. Like, basically, like, having been through everything, it's like this is what he decides to do just because he wants to be a bit selfish, which is actually totally okay. That's what makes him so humane. I think this is probably the most humane I've seen of Joel throughout this whole season, because of the fact that, you know, he's gone so close to Ellie that the last thing that he wants is to lose her. And so it's like, that's like something that I understand coming from Joel's perspective. And then again, seeing also from Ellie's perspective, just knowing that, well, she also would have wanted this to be worth something. And in terms of this episode, right, I think it's really nice that we did get this prologue of what happened to Ellie's mom. I think that gave a sense of, okay, a little bit of like a tease of what probably contributed to her immunity towards the cordyceps infection. I mean, I know that's Ashley Johnson, who did do the original voicing for Ellie in the games, and that was a really good added depth to just everything that's happened. Like, just again, like I was getting upset. I was getting a little bit of like the Game of Thrones vibes out of it. Like I don't know if you remember like the season 6 episode where they revealed Jon Snow. I was basically kind of like the way that they transitioned it. I was like, okay, that's kind of like Game of Thrones right there. That was a really nice nod, but I think that was a really nice addition to really add to it because it adds a bit more of a backstory to Ellie's origin and kind of giving us a sense of like a little bit of explanation or a tease of an explanation because they don't really go too deep into that, but they do tease what probably contributed to her immunity to the cordyceps infection, which is a really nice thing to add because who knows, that's something that they might address more into season 2. But yeah, I think that was a really nice added addition. I think Ashley Johnson was great in that episode as well. And overall, I think that this is a pretty solid episode. It's not my favorite, I will say. I would say for one thing, like I think there were some things that kind of I thought was a kind of rushing a little bit. Like for one thing, like let's be honest, like Joel was injured like for the last 2-3 episodes, and then just seeing him here like seeming okay, like I think I was kind of like, okay, the logic's a bit illogical because I would assume that he's still suffering a little bit from that wound that he had, because that's a really deep wound that's not easy to recover from. He had just been he was trying to fight an infection because of the fact that it wasn't properly being taken care of. So I did think that things were a bit rushed from this episode to this finale, just because they don't really like take a bit of the time to really address some of the things that did happen. So I do think that there was a bit of a sense where the finale was slightly rushed. And not just that, but I think that I was really surprised that this was a very short episode for a finale. I think it was only like 45 minutes, maybe even less than that. Which is really shocking because I thought it was going to be far longer, and I think that may have contributed to a little bit of how the episode felt a little bit rushed. Because I did think that some of this, just going through each of the sequences from one point to another, I thought there were some things that felt a little bit off-putting. Like the pacing was a bit off for a little bit, and I think that it may have just been because the episode was really short, and I think that it could have been a bit longer to allow things to kind of flow a bit better in terms of this episode. And I understand that there isn't really a lot left from the games. Like I don't know what really happens in the game, so I'm assuming that everything that we saw in this episode is what happens in the games, which is totally fine. I just wish that there could have been something a bit more substantial, kind of being a bit more that could have at least allowed the flow of the pacing to kind of be a bit better. It could have improved a little bit from there. And I think that, again, once we get to the ending, like I would say it did feel a really abrupt ending, which I don't know if that's how it is in the games or not, but that was a pretty abrupt ending. Like, as you can see from my reaction, I was really like, oh, that's it. But I would have loved to see if there, like, I think that it could have been slightly longer just to kind of at least add a little bit of the substance to kind of leading up to what's happening with Ellie and Joel, some of the things that we do see at the hospital, the Marlene scene that we do see between her and Joel. I feel like that could have at least been a little longer, just to kind of, allow a little bit of a closure to what's happening here. I think had the pacing had been a little bit better, I think it would have been a much better finale because of that. But aside from that, it's still a really solid episode. I think what we see in this show has been pretty remarkable. Again, the performances have been just immaculate, just from Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey, seeing the emotionality, the growth that they go through as these characters, understanding how these characters are going through and their mentality throughout each episode. Seeing this dynamic between Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey has been just incredible. Like the chemistry just could not be any better. Like you really get the sense of a father-daughter relationship, and seeing phases that they're going through, whether it be, being estranged from one another or becoming extremely close. And then of course now we're seeing a bit of this awkwardness because of everything that's happened between that basically happened at with the Fireflies in the hospital. But yeah, no, I mean, this is a pretty solid episode overall. I think that had the pacing just been a little better, I think that could have at least improved the episode a little bit. I think I like, at least with the last one, like the pacing was great, because it literally kind of stuff from the a little bit from the start, like starting things off a little slow and then really kind of building up to like this big finale. This one, it's like, I think that they had the elements. I think the hospital scene was pretty great. Like that was pretty intense, and I mean, what a way to really shoot that whole sequence right there. So that was pretty cool to watch. And then of course, like again, just seeing this dynamic between Joel and Ellie, how that sort of changes really quickly in this episode is something that, I mean, I can't wait to see how that's become consequential in season 2. And yeah, aside from that, I think that had the pacing just been a little better in this episode, I think that it could have been a far better episode in my opinion. But it's not my favorite, but I think it's a really solid way to end things off. I mean, I'm assuming this is again how they end off things in the game. So if so, it's been very faithful to the games, of course. I do have questions about whether or not season 2 is going to start off right off from the scene. Are they going to do what they do in part 2 of the video games? Because I am a bit aware of what happens in the games. I know that we have a much older Ellie in that one. So I wonder what's going to happen there. Like, what does this mean for Joel showing up in season 2? What are we going to, see in terms of their them returning back to Jackson, Wyoming? What does that mean? Like, what is Ellie going to do? Like, what is her decision? Like, what is she gonna do, knowing that Joel might be lying, that Joel must have done something really horrific, just for his own selfish needs? Like, is that something that that Ellie's gonna start contemplating about? There have been lots of questions going to season 2, and yeah, I mean, this has been a phenomenal show overall. Again, I think with the pacing from the finale, like that was something I could really sense from it, and I think again that's probably where we start to see kind of the issues, where if it's like because of this being a video game, that may have kind of made it a little bit harder to really just emulate into the TV screen. But aside from that, like the whole rushing with the finale and the pacing of this episode, I think overall this was a pretty solid finale that we saw. And it only makes me excited to see what else we're going to see out of this show, knowing that we are going to get season 2, and hopefully again we'll see both Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal back as Joel and Ellie for season 2, because I mean, this has been a remarkable show to really see this character study of each of them, and just seeing how much they've changed, and the effects of the apocalyptic world, and how that's going to be taking a toll, not just them, but just humanity alone, right? But yeah, I mean, solid episode overall. I really enjoyed it, and yeah, I can't wait to see what season 2. So let me know what your thoughts are. What are your thoughts overall? Did you like the episode? Did you like the finale? Did you not like the finale? Did you think that there was some pacing issues that I also talked about? Or do you think it was fine? Like, this is how the video games were, and this is basically how they were basically kind of being faithful to it. If that's how you think about it, let me know. What do you think overall about Joel and Ellie's dynamic? Overall, like, did you enjoy? Did you not enjoy it? What do you think this is gonna mean going into season 2? Like, it's gonna be far more consequential. Knowing that this is gonna be, part 2 is probably gonna be more so what is going to be season 2. What do you think that's going to happen overall? We're going to see far more changes, or is it going to still remain faithful to it? I think they have said they're going to try and be faithful to it, but do you think otherwise? And yeah, what are your thoughts overall about season 1? Like, what do you love? Like, what do you think about Last of Us overall? What are your thoughts about it? Let me know in the comments down below, and make sure to like and subscribe.